And all right, I swear I just did this. Try this again. All right, bam. Hola, hola, buenos dias, buenos noches. How goes it, G's and G's? My name is Trek with 2Ks, and this is, I'm just going to call it the Trek with 2K show. And yeah, so welcome to Trek with 2Ks. I am Trek with 2Ks, and I'm here on the Crypto Network. And if you don't know, now you do know. Basic idea of this show loosely is now about just talking about some of the crypto things that come across my radar, but like more so the things that actually intrigue me to talk about them. Not about the price talk. If you've been following me or have spoken to me directly, I'm not a price talk person. We have other folks here on the Gentleman Crypto Network that are better at the whole speculation and price talk stuff. Black Rule, Science Family, Aaron, like those folks are better at it. King, better at it than me. I don't do the price talk stuff. But if you do want to listen for some of the other things I do talk about, please do stay. I welcome it. Um, Once again, I'm also trying to do a multitasking thing of working with different devices. And I'm trying to see if I can get this to come up on and it is not doing it. Like I got the big screen over on one side, and then I got this going on over here. But as you can see from the title, it's at least two things that caught my attention this weekend. And one of them has to do with everyone's fave, our official new president, um, Tattoo Monkey. What? Okay, I'm so curious on why the title is that. I thought my title was crazy. Um, Everybody's favorite, the new president, El Trumpe. And then the other one about the Ledger situation. Well, it's not the Ledger situation, more so one of their founders, um, his family situation, which at this point is kind of over because um, things worked out in his favor. Let's kind of say it that way. All right, so got this going where I needed to go. I think either my side is bogging down or what you call it? Hey, perfect. Or yeah, to not actually remember to press the mute button ahead of time. So yeah. Pardon me while I do multitasking. Is happening. All right. So all right. So first story. And the funny part, as far as how the title goes, what got me was I seen something else that was like Trump. What was it? Trump looks to do make what is it? Crypto American crypto tax exempt. And so I'm like, what? Like, what's going on? A matter of fact, it was that his son gave some indication that there was going to be an exemption for cryptocurrencies that were American based, right? So now I'm like kind of trying to run down that mental rabbit hole of like, well, what does that actually entail? What does that mean, right? Because we like throwing words out there. And then, of course, with how the new the way that the FUD works, the misinformation works, and that it turned into a couple of different articles or platforms were trying to be like, well, yeah, Trump is going to do this exemption thing for currencies, but when you start cross-referencing and just like kind of going at what the official announcements are coming out of the White House and cross-referencing it with other things, it's like, well, one, he didn't sign no executive order that actually relates to that right now, and then two, the IRS ain't trying to move on their stance on what's going on with how they collect the money on the whole crypto situation, right? Whether it be local to the states or overseas, they don't care. So that part. So now I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, what does that mean? Because I was reading one article that used the phrasing of Trump saying something about like, you know, an American-born cryptocurrency, right? And I'm like, well, what does that actually mean? Because as I've said, for the folks who've been following me for a minute, like I've been very, very leery of this conversation around nationalism getting pushed into the crypto space, right? Now, yeah, we have the thing of like legislative policies and regulations and governing agencies and departments. I get that part of it, right? Understandable to a degree of that part of it. But this thing of where now, hey, what's going on the Bitcoin? Bitcoin Shango. Hey, um, so I gotta catch up with you, bro. Like, it's so much. I'm not offline convo. I'm down in Georgia. Um, I'll hit you up later on that whole thing with the gang side of stuff. But so yeah. So now here you have it. You saw like the way that this conversation is being pushed into this patriotic um nationalism thing of America's gonna be the the place of Bitcoin. Like, first off, that technically does not make no sense because it's literally not how it works. Literally not how the tech works, which then gets me to start running down a rabbit hole of, well, so let's say we could quote make it American in terms of like it would be American companies, and we're gonna bigger expansion of cryptocurrencies in general. There's the it's American companies, right? There's that part of it. And so we get into the American companies and the things that make them work on the back end, the servers and all that other stuff. Um, yeah, but what I'm saying is if we're talking about how the technology works versus how we're talking about um, companies and how we're talking about how companies are registered, right? The technology versus how it works on the back end in the technology stack. So, one, yes, the company could be here in the states. Yes, it could be a American registered company, right? But does that mean that their technology stack, as far as where their servers are, does that mean that those things are located here, right? So we get into one aspect of the technical part of the technology. Then we can get into another part of, well, what happens if you're a company that's large enough to where like you have servers and like a back end operation here in the States, but you also have another operating like mirroring off of what US companies doing that's overseas, and like because of the volume and the activity of stuff going on over there, what do you do for the better technology side of it? You're running technology like servers and things on that side of the world and that closer to that market's area, right? That region. So now, which thing are we saying is the American born? Because understand, Ripple is operating in multiple European countries right now. They're operating down in Latin America, right? They're two big focuses. For the last time I was paying attention was, what was that? Western Europe? No, Eastern Europe. They were running around a couple of countries there, and they were doing stuff in Latin America. So, um, what are we saying is an American born crypto if how the technology works on the back end is not solely centralized or controlled in in an American market or American jurisdiction? And let me not say it that way, because jurisdiction is very broad when it comes to how America operates, right? We see this in the things of like how OFAC has moved. We see this in how we did our whole thing of the war on terrorism. We see this in how the IRS does stuff to go after folks internationally, how we do exchange in law enforcement with Interpol, how we do exchange in law enforcement powers and other type of federal related powers with other governments and agencies. Case in point, like people be like really overlooking this thing. Guantanamo Bay is on what island? It's on Cuba. The same place that we telling Americans they can't go, and the same place that we saying, oh, those are the communists, the same, like that whole thing of jurisdiction, the section of the island that has the prison on it, that legal jurisdiction around that land, that part is no way, let me not say no way, but like the Cuban government and the Cuban people have no say so. Let's say it's a gray area for certain parts of it, but there's no influence on what goes on that side of the island. They stay over there, the US folks stay over there, right? So I will pull back from the word of influence, but more so again talking about just like it is it is very simplistic to go American born crypto when you don't include how the back end technical part of it works. And which then gets me to this whole thing about even the Bitcoin side of it. So it's just like, wait a minute. It's like, so how would this work? Even on the, we're not even gonna run like I just did a little dip on cryptocurrencies in general. Now let's look at Bitcoin. There's no parent company. There's no registered company. There's no um, readily identifiable founders. There's no, um, let's say, well, we can't even count the persons of interest now because all of those people, um, yeah, yo, honestly, I don't know nobody who's, well, let me, I can still follow with that statement. I don't know anyone who was stationed there who had a bad time. I know a number of people who talked about scuba diving down there, said it was great. But anywho, um, how does that work in that context? Which then gets my brain going. I think this then means there's going to be another push on the exchanges. And this goes to in my brain, in my mind, IMM, in my mind, this goes to something that Reggie had talked about. If you don't know who I'm talking about Reggie Middleton. And he brought this up a while ago. I don't, and this was, it wasn't a one-on-one conversation, but this happened a while ago. Um, he had said he was making a point about how Bitcoin, because of how it can be, no, how is it? Like in general, we say a Bitcoin is a Bitcoin, right? A Satoshi is a Satoshi. But now, when we have Bitcoin ordinals, what does that do? That shows us that through inscribing, as well as other methods, we can readily identify individual Bitcoins or individual Satoshis. So now they're not fungible. They're not just interchangeable. Anything is anything, right? And I forgot, I recently heard somebody else bring this up too. And I think it's going to play into the tax situation. But Reggie was making a point about like how they'll look to stop people from moving their Bitcoin around in particular. And it was the whole thing of like, well, now that we can readily identify those individual like those individual Bitcoins, like the only other thing is to then take it a step further and be like, we need to get all of the Bitcoin that is like that has gone through who we cleared, the Coinbases, the um, what's the other one? The I haven't touched a centralized exchange in so long, y'all. Like I don't even remember who's who right now. But the point being is the idea that it has to be a multi-prong approach to how they would be able to do to even have any level of realization of America is going to be the dominant player and we're going to be the home of Bitcoin, right? Um, because you would end up having to attack, and I'm using the word attack on purpose, at the exchanges, and then at some point you're going to have to go after the wallets. And then the issue with the wallets is now you get into the thing about self custody versus custodial custody of the exchanges holding your stuff, right? And then it gets into, well, if you, which I'm running down a rabbit hole far on this one. At some point, the IRS would try to make the argument of, well, you need to start sending in your wallet addresses so they can do, and they might not even call it this in the beginning. They'll probably just try to call it some other kind of program or some other kind of project name to be like, we need to have your wallet addresses. So if you're doing self custody, like, so you are buying off of the exchange, you move it over into self custody, right? So they topographically, like as far as like mapping it out, they know that at least X amount of the source of your crypto went through the gate guard. But it doesn't mean that you don't have other sources that are giving you access to a Bitcoin or some other crypto where you're doing direct exchanges, right? And then again, you don't know where exchanges, as far as like if you're using true DeFi platforms or if you're doing um, direct exchange for product or service. So it's like, hey, I need some work done on my car. All right, cool. Well, I don't have any cash right now, but I do have like this amount of, Bitcoin or whatever other crypto that person would find of value. I would equate it out to this amount of it. All right, bet. Boop, boop, boop. We change it on our wallets directly, right? Now, that person could be just doing side work and they're just putting stuff directly into their own personal wallet. They're not running back through an exchange, right? But the point being is, if what he's saying is the intentional gold, the real worry is how are they going to start going about executing it? Because at the end of the day, it boils down to they're going to start coming at the wallets more. There's going to be a bigger issue between if you have a custodial wallet, self-custody wallet, versus a exchange custodial wallet. And that's where I'm going to say old heads like myself and a couple other folks out there are going to have more of an issue. Because in the simplest terms, it's like the IRS doesn't come to you saying, hey, we need you to like send us a picture of your wallet every time you put money in it. Like every time you put fiat in your wallet, in your purse, in your pocket, like you got to send us a picture of that so we can count how many bills you got. That's literally on par with how they're going to look to push this crypto side thing of, or at least that's how I'm projecting it in my head. That might be a scenario of, we need to start seeing your wallets. We already know what the exchanges tell us, but if you're doing self custody, we need to start seeing those wallets. And it's like, but and now arguably we do that with bank accounts, right? But there's a filter, there's a layer in it, right? In that the government, obviously DOJ, pretty much, and IRS, the FBI, all of them can pretty much go to the bank and be like, hey, we need to see blah blah blah, and it's just a couple of boop boop boop, boop buttons, and boop, they look at your whole thing, right? There's that level of it. But if you pull the money or that monetary instrument out of the system, out of the digital system, out of your what's the safety deposit boxes, because remember, the FBI just showed us 2 years ago now that they can go in and take your stuff, and it's up to you to prove that you lawfully should get it back. And that case has been going on for a hot minute right now. That was a California case. But so you have it that you have where when you pull it out of the banking system, you take $100 out. We do easy numbers, right? $100 out. You take the $100 out, and then you go and spend it on whatever it is you go and spend it on. They don't know. Did you go buy groceries? Did you just go and like buy gas? Did you use it to get some illicit substance, or did you just go to the liquor store? Did you give it to a homeless person? Did you give it to your kid? Did you lose the $100? You see what I'm saying? Like, once you pull it out of the system that has all the tracking and monitoring capabilities of it, they don't know what happened to it. And so that gets into, well, how do we properly pocket watch you? Well, why are you pocket watching me? I paid the taxes. I did what I was supposed to do. Leave me be, right? Like, there's no law that says you can't just hold the money in cash, or you can't just hold it in gold or silver or precious metals or crypto, or like what other thing you find valuable, or you can find a community of people who do find that thing to have value in that way, right? There's no law that says no. Granted, there is laws that says no, don't mess with the 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 the, the national government's um, financial instrument of fiat. There's definitely laws on that. That's how the RICO stuff happens to you. That's how, when you end up doing certain activities, and once you mess around with that fiat money, bam, federal charges is real. But the point to this thing is that there are a number of things that, like, he has said running up to January 20th and him coming into office, as well as things that are being pushed out by folks connected to his administration. And I'm particularly focusing now on like the crypto related stuff, where it's just like, I don't hear or understand how the practicality part of that works. Because even on what was it? The thing I talked about last week with the software Hester Pierce, and like even the lady who's over at FinCEN, they was all running around DC, showing up to all of like the DC style, crypto events over the last couple of years and getting their names and faces associated. They were doing it like by like brand association, where you're with like the CEO, Brian Armstrong, and oh yeah, we're at this event and blah blah blah. Oh, I got to meet such and such from the CFTN, and it's like like I just sat back and I watched the whole thing, and I was like, wow, like this place is gonna look really funky in a couple, and then people are gonna go to these folks and be like, yeah, they know what they're doing, because like they've been around, they're friendly to the space. I'm gonna still say the same thing, like, you can't ask the warden of the prison to be like, hey, man, I think you should give us more freedoms. It would be more helpful to the inmates. What? No, sir. My job is to be a warden and to limit your freedoms. That's Hester Pierce in my book, right? That's what's her name? I forget her name right now, but what's the name for FinCEN? Like, and don't get me wrong, like I get the whole thing of like having these policies that work to make a more stable market / environment, so you don't have X amount of the Wild Wild West scenarios that we had in the earlier part of the space. But again, that's under a premises of people and businesses, more so people on the individual retail level, do not know what to do with economic sovereignty, nor do most people want economic sovereignty, because that inherently requires them to be proactive in how they understand money, how they understand debt, how they understand the financial accountability, and like the act of being able to say, I know I can hold it and spend it and transport it the way that I want, but I also know when I just like do FOMO style investments or don't do my due diligence and research, and then I lose set amounts of financial instrument, aka money, it's not on the, oh man, I got that guy's a scammer, that person on the internet that or my cousin stole it. All of that boils down to like, well, did you do your due diligence? Did you have like a proper plan in place that um if you know, and this is actually tying into my next story about the ledger situation. Um, did you have a proper safety plan? Did you have like a OPSEC? Like, what was your thing of? Do you do your due diligence? Right? We all, well, not all of us, but those of us who was here in the earlier parts of the day, it's like, yeah, you was just throwing money this way, throwing money that way, and some of the things was hitting, and then you're like, oh man, look at how my cryptos look right now, and then like you go on some of those chains now, they are dead like doornails. Okay, like there were some chains that were on Ethereum that aren't even like operational now. Okay, but to the bigger point of, most people do not want economic sovereignty because an inherent part of that is financial accountability for how you spend and manage your funds. And considering that in the West, we have been very conditioned to living off of the more debt instrument side versus the hard cash side, right? Of the cost of living, right? I don't know how many of y'all been paying attention, but like there's been a definite uptick in conversations and reportings around how the what is it, people's credit card payments, the delays are growing, the number of people who are having credit card delays are growing. So like, why is that? Because a lot of people got used to living on debt. And like, oh man, like there was one point where I was doing I think it was DoorDash, and like the things that people would order on DoorDash just would have my head spin. Like I remember one time I went to pick up a coffee for somebody at like a diner, and they were literally like maybe 3 or 5 blocks away at like a little bar place, and ordered a coffee. The coffee was damn near hey man, do what you gotta do. The coffee was damn near, I think, because of the whole, the way the food thing worked, it was like double or triple the price of what the actual coffee was, like what they paid for it. But and then a lot of people got used to like connecting their credit cards with the food service um, apps, because that way like you were getting reward points and stuff for it, right? But like if you're not paying out how you're supposed to pay out, or things are lapsing, eh, it adds up eventually, right? But that was a whole different, not a whole different time, but like that was just some of the things I was noticing. Nonetheless, right? This whole thing of, let's start pushing the idea or the narrative of American born crypto, it just, I guess this also goes to the thing about how, like, if you can break down a concept to the simplest thing and repeat it enough, eventually it gets some level of traction, right? And that's a marketing thing. Like it's definitely a marketing thing, as far as like if you repeat it often enough, um, it eventually gets some level of traction. And then considering who he is, and then how the American media definitely makes money off of repeating things that he says or doesn't say, you know, it there's the real traction, and then there's the artificial traction created within how our news cycle is, right? But to the point of what I initially started with, like this thing, it 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 doesn't make sense from the Wait, let me read what you're actually saying, bro. My bad. So listening back to the convo with my mother, she said straight up, it's just easier to use the current system. Yeah, she right. It is. But okay, but here's the thing about that though. Like economic sovereignty has been around for as long as the concept of money has been around. It may have been different names, it may have gone under a different name and stuff like that, but like the practice of holding your own financial instrument, having positive control of your own financial instrument is not something new that just came along when we started having like cryptocurrencies, right? It's not something new that just came along when we started printing fiat currencies for sovereign nations. Like it's been in existence before. We may have called it different names, but the thing has been there, right? And so like it it it's going to be interesting to watch how this plays out over the administrative period. And I get though, I do understand that part of his strategy, or at least whoever is advising him around this crypto stuff, and granted, like I've seen some list that was talking about like who has gotten to like talk to him. So like Brian Armstrong, there's a PayPal guy who's going to be the Caesar thing and whatever. And it's just like, yeah, but you're talking to the pro capitalist, pro like mainstream, let's put crypto in a bottle and package it people. You're not talking, he's not talking to or being advised or influenced by the people who are actually like, no, I'm actually 100%. Let's just let this thing be a um, an instrument of economic sovereignty in the truest sense of what that phrase actually means, right? He's not talking to those people. He's not even hearing them yelling with a blowhorn. They're not even on the radar. Yet, the people who are, quote, making it to the table are the ones that are being touted as the friends of crypto. Really? What crypto are they friends? Like, what type of crypto are they promoting? What kind of system or narrative are they pushing now? And I can say I don't think it has anything to do with economic sovereignty because everything has to do with being able to push you through the gate guard system. I even seen something that was talking about Ted Cruz and how with what Trump is looking to do to then push against what was it? It was the uh, what was it? Do, 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 do. It was something about some kind of he's starting to fight the IRS's position about getting personal data from DeFi platforms, which really means the platforms that market themselves as DeFi, right, decentralized platforms. Those platforms are going to do the same thing Coinbase and all of the other centralized platforms did, and I imagine that when the push gets to really pushing, they're going to lose business. So when they lose business, um, it then means that the numbers aren't going to make sense to maintain running a DeFi platform. The marketing narrative and the rebrandings are going to start happening where either there's going to be partnerships, buyouts, or flat out like, all right, bet we're just going to leave this market. It doesn't work for us. Like, especially if they really pull in the numbers, and I don't know who's the top 3, top 5, top 10 DeFi platforms right now who aren't American based, but like if they really pull in the numbers and they really want to fight the sovereignty, like the IRS thing, I don't know if that's really worth the battle. Like, is the market really worth that much? Or is it that you're connected to other things that's like, if we open up our books in this level, that could be a situation. That's another part of it. Why I think um, they are going to look to start pushing on the DeFi exchanges, like the companies that market as DeFi, and then the companies that are really actually DeFi. I think the harder target to hit is going to be the companies that are actually DeFi platforms that are like, yo, we just put the script up and like the users do what they do. Like, if you have a block explorer, you know what exchange, like what blockchain we on. Y'all can have fun scraping through the stuff. And 9 times out of 10, chain analysis is already at least watching the top, 50, top 100. And most people don't practice proper cybersecurity. So, if you do enough data mining, you're already connecting the people back to their actual PII. Like, that's the simple situation of it. Like, most people don't practice proper cyber hygiene, and they already got stuff spilling all over the place. So, you know, like your average person trying to like root through and do data mining, it might take them a little bit. It might take them a little bit, right? So maybe X amount of hours on YouTube and TikTok to like figure out how to do the searching. Um, but then when you get into the state actor level, that's like two softwares max. Two max. If a state sponsored person who has to get into your business, two softwares max, and they got your whole thing already. But like I said, this thing of an American born crypto, it does not make sense to me for how the technology works on the back end. I also think that and funny enough, one of the other articles I was reading, they were talking about how this is the same thing that Cynthia Loomis had brought up. And again, I'm still going back to the same thing. For as much as I am a green suitor, those of you in the gang, you know what I'm talking about. I'm still not pro. Let's start putting nationalism and Americanism into this crypto narrative of like, we have to have Bitcoin be an American thing. The technology stack don't work like that, nor does it really work like that for any of the cryptos, right? But this new push, I get that it's also a part of the quote counter to what Russia and China are doing. But I just don't see it playing out the way that, like, don't get me wrong, there's definitely going to be people who get the bag. 100%. There's going to be people who get the bag. But the vast majority of people are going to be left holding a bag. And it's not going to be the bag that you want. Like that's the simple thing of how I see it. I see that the American public is being set up to be left holding a bag full of crap. And the way that he's gonna, the administration or him being Trump is gonna try to tie it into the whole "Make America Great Again." What up, Lesquire? Um, hmm, that'd be. Listen, bro. There's like how many things already out on YouTube? Like I don't gotta tell you what 100 other folks ain't already like say, and it's folks already pushing out some of the newer update stuff. Like my guy, Mind Your Biz. Mind Your Biz is really good on the whole like cyber OPSEC, especially for those folks who are in the crypto space. Then you got how many of the videos that the gentleman of crypto already put out that still age well. They got long tail, value for how to do things as far as like with your crypto for like safety and security stuff. And yeah, I've been out for a minute. but I know that there's definitely been like, what was it? I was listening to somebody the other day and they were talking about how like there's some newer um alternatives to using MetaMask, which at some point I have to go actually look into myself. I haven't done that myself. I'm sorry, I'm like sideways, what is it, diverging, but like I saw that comment and I was like, oh yeah, let me just throw on that now. But like I said, like for how this crypto thing with the nationalism thing is going to be pushed into the whole make America great again, and it's not going to play out the way it's being sold. And I still think the same thing. Like, if our foreign policy shows that we are trying to strong arm people into playing in our sandbox and then telling them, well, if you don't play in my sandbox, then I'm not going to let you back in the park. But it turns out like you only have one key to that part of the park with your sandbox over there. And then there's a bunch of other entrances and a bunch of other sandboxes to play in. Eventually, everyone catches on. Oh, snap. I don't even need to worry about your sandbox no more. And sure, you locked me out. Got you. Bet. Okay. Like that is literally what is going on right now on the geopolitical scale globally of how we're talking with other countries. You better do this. You got to do that. If you don't do this, I'm just going to take my ball and go away. I'm just going to kick you out the sandbox. And some of the countries are like, oh, all right, bet. Okay. Because they know it's other sandboxes. And that's part of what I feel is going to happen within this crypto thing as far as the, oh, well, we don't, like, I'm not going to allow you to sell to the American market if you don't do X, Y, and Z thing. Here's the funny part, and I was just listening to somebody break, I think it was Richard Wolff who was breaking this down today about how, like, the Chinese um, low income and middle income have some crazy projection number on how they're going to grow, I think, over the next 2 decades. Then you got the Indian population of like low and middle, and then like how they're gonna grow. It's not the same number as the Chinese number. Europe's number is just trash for the next 2 decades. Our numbers are trash for the next 2 decades. So, in the context of this, and granted, I'm not an economist, I just happen to pay attention to people who are definitely more smarter in this particular subject than I am, right? And who actually do this particular subject, right? So here you have it. I'm gonna tell you, you can't do business in my country. And I'm gonna also tell my people who are local to me, hey, if y'all don't do like, just listen to what I'm saying. If y'all listen to how I'm telling these other countries to, or other businesses outside of the country to do business here, it's gonna make y'all money down the road. I promise you, right? All the businesses are gonna come back here. We're trying to what is it? We're trying to reshore. That's what they call it now. It's reshoring. We're trying to get the business to come back here. Whether we're talking about like manufacturing, we're talking about software stuff, whatever. But then it turns out that the people here can't afford, right, to pay for the stuff like that. Because again, most Americans, not most Americans, but a sizable proportion of the American economy is is funded through credit card debt, right? Or debt of some sort. And so with that, those other outside companies are like, well, we don't want to go there because y'all doing too much stuff. You want to charge us extra on these tariffs, which at the end of the day, the tariffs do not actually hurt the company because all they do is pass it along to the consumer. So that's just, a double ended thing biting you in the ass of, Not only now can your local people not afford to pay for the service like that or for that product like that, but you're also losing on the export side of it because the stuff that we're doing here doesn't get exported like that. There's a whole thing going on where we're being told one narrative locally, right? Because it sounds good for the local population. Yeah, we're going to get jobs back. Yeah, we're building up America again. Yeah, those, foreigners, those companies, like they need to, start remember who America is. Like, but the things that we're doing, and again, for all of the people who I have on my radar right now that I'm paying attention to, it's like, wait, do any? Ooh. MLE. I haven't heard of that in a hot minute, sir. It's been a while. I'll come back around to that. But this idea of um the combination of foreign policies, how do I say this? The the things that are looking to be implemented as part of our foreign policy, when you talk or pay attention to how the outside news personalities and the narratives of what is being explained are like how they see it or interpret it within Europe, within Africa, within Asian countries, within the Latin American countries. It's not what is being told here. Like, it's just not. What was it? I seen something today with former vice president, what's his name? He was under Bush too, Cheney. And he was trying to tell this Chinese, I think he was a foreign minister, something about like, well, our policy or our thought process was like, if we allow China to become the backbone manufacturing hub for America, then our American ideals would eventually rub off on the Chinese government and the Chinese people, and the Chinese people would be more Americanized. And the dude was like, bro, like, no, like we was never gonna do that. Like, that's not how our culture works at all. Like, we never wanted to be the hegemonic, like, top um global power. Like, that was never a goal. But yet that's how we project, that's how we operate, right? Like, if you ever listen to how, like, and I think Cheney's in his 80s now, I think. But it's like it's so crazy to listen to the older heads. And it's like one or two older heads who, they're not as what do they call them? They're not as neoconish. They're not still, Cold War mentality of like, it's us or the Reds, and like it can only be, they're not Highlander. They're not like, it can only be one. It's so weird when you like really get into the mindset of the people who we have in charge. And granted, our new vice president dude, he's like one of the youngest vice presidents, but like, that's who that is right now. Granted, his worldly knowledge is what it is. Um, there's a couple other people that I could probably speak on, but I'm not going to do it just because of other connections in life that might not work out to my best advantage, right? But nonetheless, the Trump thing, um, the whole American born crypto, he's pushing some kind of funny agenda with that. It's not going to play out how they're marketing it to the American public. Um, and the fallout for the truer DeFi economic side of the space is going to be rough. I think it's going to be rough. I think that this administration might be where the push starts to really rear its head, because we already got the Bitcoin ETF, and I think there's the Ethereum ETF, but I think like this is going to be the initial push to try and move Bitcoin, like blockchain based Bitcoin, Satoshi's Bitcoin, into the paper side, like gold and like how precious metals is, like the real paper trade side of it, not physical um the physical market, but the paper market side of it. I think this is going to be the initial push for it, and it's going to lead to a number of different things, i.e., pushing on the exchanges, pushing on the wallets, especially the self custody wallets, pushing on the DeFi, the real DeFi platforms, the marketed DeFi platforms. In this administration, I can see some partnerships, some buyouts, some just, it don't make sense to be in this market. We tried. Time to go. Also, all right. So transitioning on that one, I feel like I rambled and beat the horse to death on that one. But yeah, it's gonna be some kind of dump. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not a price talk person, right? But someone's gonna make money. That's 100% for sure. There's gonna be a number of people who make money, but there will definitely be a number of people who get left holding a bag of shit. Simple, just facts on that one. Other story that caught my attention. So initially, I seen a Jameson Lott post, and he was like, "Hey, kind of rumors floating around right now that I said Daniel, I think his name is Daniel Deland or something, or Michael Deland, earlier co-founder of Ledger Wallet. If you don't know, Ledger is a French hardware wallet company, and so the basic thing of it was." Um, Him and his wife got kidnapped from their home in France. And apparently, was it that they separated them? Did the whole thing about the ransom. And I will say, kudos to the law enforcement people. Kudos to the folks who were able to keep it under wraps long enough so that like they could be helped, they could be rescued, they could make it away safe. But let's say safer from this situation. I seen one thing on Twitter that said he lost a finger. Um, I seen something else that said that the wife, she was safe. Thankfully, nothing happened to her in terms of the physical. But I imagine the mental and emotional, like that's gonna take some adjustment time. That's gonna take some adjustment time. And on Twitter, I had said, I wonder if he comes up with another company from this idea, from not idea, from this experience. Um, it also made me wonder, especially considering the bigger economics. One of the things I was reading was talking about how um, I think it was like 20 people that got arrested, and obviously like it had to be a conspiracy because like you had to figure out like, all right, this is where the dude live at, this is what his schedule looked like. All right, if we grab this one, if we grab him with the wife, we can then like the locations and everything. And about 20 people got arrested, but there was some things within one of the articles that I read that was saying like this group of folks that got arrested were connected to a larger criminal organization. Don't know how true that part is, because what got me, and then the other part too, when you read the American stories, like if you read any of the crypto or regular news stories that cater to American audiences, there's a good amount of information that just is not in the damn story. Um, compared to if you actually like go and find like the French news sources or follow people who are within Twitter who are like actually in France or at least pay enough attention to the France news cycle, right? It's so interesting just to note how that stuff translates or not translates, but how those things are packaged, right? The American audience versus the French audience, the European audience, the people who are more concerned about the security aspect. Um, and again, like the reason why I bring it's a couple of reasons because there's a couple of thoughts that ran across my mind on this particular thing. Is again, will he come up with a new company idea off of this? Um, I I hope that him and his wife will um, have the needed time and support to process and to get help because it is not a light ordeal, right? Um, like something that they didn't think would happen, and based on some of the tweets and some of the other stuff I was looking at, like he wasn't a flashy dude, like he was just he was yes, he was a early co-founder, but like he wasn't like some of the other folks who are out here getting like, $1 million car when they're a CEO kind of person. He's not having a super luxurious mansion and stuff like that. Like simple, nonchalant kind of guy, at least as he look in the appearance. Um, but like in that he's also one of the early folks in the space. I wonder how this makes him look at the space now, right? Because for those of us who was back here back in like 2015, 14, when we had um the crypto exchanges, like the Bitcoin, what was it, like Bitcoin Street or Bitcoin Exchange or Bitcoin Direct or something? Excuse me, I can't remember what the site is now. Granted, those sites is riddled with law enforcement now, right? But back in the day, you had it where you were buying crypto directly from someone. That's when we got into the whole thing of like doing public spaces because you didn't want to go to some place and then the person's like, oh yeah, welcome me around the corner. And then you walk around the corner and there's three people waiting to beat your ass, right? Like, so and now granted, this is not your average quote everyday person. This is not your low income person. This is this guy's up there on the economic scale, but he also doesn't live quote the flashy fashy lavish life. So like usually you think, oh, like the person who gets got is a person who's being flashy. And this also makes me think of there was a story what was this? I think it was like a week or two ago. I seen it, and it was just like in passing. I think where they were saying some guy got lured out of a conference either in like South Korea or someplace out in that neck of the world, and then he got robbed for like over 100K in crypto, right? Um, Again, the way that the stories work when written in the to cater to the American market, it's very dumbed down and it's very much stripped of X number of details. And then sometimes it's literally just a copy and paste story and they don't know jack diddly about the details because they didn't give you a name of the guy. There was no thing of like what the cryptos were. My point in bringing these two things together is that um, you have it where with everything going on the economic side, right? Of the hey, like inflation is crazy right now, right? Um, the scammers, as far as the smart digital scammers, like they've been having a run for the last what 5, 6 years, or well, more of a resurgence, let's say, because like that mm, that like 15 to 17 period, the scammers, the hackers, they was on a tear, right? And then you had chain analysis come in, and then you had things like Interpol start getting smarter to it. Then you had the U.S. Marshals, and you had the FBI, and you had all these different law enforcement agencies and the regulators. Blah 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 blah. Everyone wants to throw in their hand as far as like policing, right? So you have X number of like the number of cases drop down, right? The number of the cyber side folks dropped down. But then there were like little here and there stories that were popping up after the C-19 period, um, where you were hearing about more physical attacks. And I remember I hadn't even covered the story. It was like in 22 or 23. I think it might have been, I don't remember if it was 22 or 23, but like there were stories on people getting robbed over in London, and then like over in one of the other European countries. And I said it then, and it was like, "Yo, are we going back to like where the low end criminals like, yeah, it's just about the brute force. It's just about the brute force. Why? Because people or the criminal or the bad actors were starting to realize, hey, crypto's becoming more popular and more people have crypto wallets on their phone, right? And so it was interesting to watch how it wasn't too much coverage going on about how these different attacks and robberies were happening, but it was low end. It was straight brute force. It was, yo, unlock your phone. Oh, I don't remember my pin. I ain't even worried about it, bro. You got an Apple phone. Put your thumb on here. Look at the phone. Do do open. Do do do. All right, money sent, gone. There was even like the stories about how dudes would go and like talk to a chick, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, let me get your number. I'll put it in the phone." Dude, just go to the phone, find the app that's the a crypto wallet, instantly enter his thing. Boop 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 boop, gone. Like those stories are happening. And then we're also having the brute force stuff. The hacker folks are there, yeah, but like that hacker side, um, as the technical folks increase their technical proficiency, so does the law enforcement folks. The cat and mouse game, have you, right? In the meantime, you still got the basic dude. Listen, I don't know all that tech stuff. I don't got time for the computers thing. Yo, I'm gonna just have to either punch you in the face or pull out this gun, pull out the pew pew on you, or here's a blade. Like, what are you gonna choose, sir? Give up the phone, give up the app access, like And at the end of the day, though, I just hope that folks are safe, safe as can be. Pay a little bit more attention to your surroundings. Um, like I honestly think that we're going to hear more of these stories. And then when you think about this in combination, it's like a crescendo, right? So you have, and again, I'm not a price talk person. I'm not telling you where to, put your money, put your effort on all that stuff. But I'm just saying, like this idea of there are things by our administration, American administration, being done to quote do things that make the market look quote favorable, right? And so pricings are doing what they're doing, right? But then at the same time, on the other side, um, exactly. It, it might not even be the wrench, my man. It might be that they just grab like a big piece of 2x4 on you. Like, at the end of the day, most folks ain't trying to get hit, right? But so you got this happening on one side to the market, right? Which is this niche thing. It's in that it's not super everyone's into it. Like X amount of people do know about it, but that doesn't mean they're into it, right? And then you have the other part of the real world economy where inflation is hitting everything. Everything, right? Burgers, going to the burger joint, trying to just get a dollar meal, like 99-cent store ain't 99-cent store no more. Gas is doing what gas is doing. Milk costs, enough, right? The chicken eggs, even if you get in the artificially food fed chickens, like the caged chickens, that joint is still expensive. Okay. So here you have it that the criminal folks is just like, yo, I'm out here trying to pay these bills and like sustain myself like everybody else, but like, hey man, this 9 to 5 ain't cutting it. Like, think about how many people you know right now who do something in addition to their regular job. It's only gonna be more people. And I was saying this the other day, right? Because what happened? One of Trump's, did y'all know that Trump signed, I think, over 300 executive orders? And so far, I've only heard maybe about 15 of them. Now, granted, I haven't gone to the White House website to like dig into each individual one, but it's, bruh, you see what I'm saying? $7.99 for eggs, my guy. Yeah, that's wild. Um, but like over 300 executive orders, and you only and again, I'm not super digging in on everything, but it's one of those like, wait, I only heard about like 15 of these. Like, where the hell were these other 200 and change? Like, when did he do that? And apparently, your man has been on the tear since the inauguration. Like the Air Force One has been on the move, and the ripple effects from the executive orders are like happening in various departments and agencies within the government. So I guess this first 100 days is going to be something else, to say the least. To say the least. But to this original story, as far as the thing with the Ledger co-founder dude, like again, best wishes to the family. Really wishing, hoping that they get the time to like process, recover, get the help that they need to deal with this event as it has happened. Because, like I said, one of the stories I heard, he lost a finger. I hadn't seen anything else that had like repeated that, but I also noted that a number of the stories that the platforms that cater to American audiences leave out a lot of stuff. So, nonetheless, hope that's happening for him and his wife. Then for folks in general, I throw this out again. Are we getting back to that 2014-16 period where the non-technical folks are going to start doing things? Because again, Bitcoin, I think, is near 100K right now, right? And it wasn't 100K back in 2014. Right? So like, imagine what folks are gonna do now when they find out, oh, you got Bitcoin? Oh, you're into Bitcoin. Really now? Like, times is hard. Folks is gonna be out here doing what they do. And I really do hope that folks are being more attentive in what their strategy and setup is, because as this price increases for any of these cryptocurrencies and the things that tend to show more favor on the quote regulatory side, there's always that counter for anything that makes favor into the regulatory side on what happens to Hey, I'm telling you, like, and then don't even get into the thing about how people's doing something strange for change, bro. Like, yo, like people thought it was wild on how OnlyFans exploded um during the C-19 period. Just wait. Like, again, some of the folks that I'm paying attention to is like, yeah, like the job market is going to be crazy in this administration and not in a good way. So you combine a crazy job market, right? Landscape. Um, and then you have it that this crypto thing is like way over here on the price point value side. Inflation is like kicking your butt, right? I was listening to one dude the other day, and he was just talking about like how even if you are doing this thing where like you're gonna get in the stocks, it's like, yo, like you're gonna get in the stocks and you're gonna work harder to be able to do X, Y, and Z. But it's like if you're getting into the stock game, outside of you trying to be some day trade flipper kind of person, your situation is you're going to get in and yeah, you get into the stocks that do dividends, but it's not going to make you a millionaire. It's not going to make you ball. Like you literally have to do the long run game of when everything goes crushing. Yeah, I got well, crumbling down, wait it out to where things come back up again. So you got to look at this thing in a real long run game. Like it's not just this administration because the average person doesn't have like $1,000 or even let's say $5,000 or $10,000 to just drop into stocks and then be like, all right, I could wait out the 1 or 2 years. I need to see this thing go down and then do a little jump up. And even if like I was buying stuff where it was at some, let's say 50 cents or like $2 and then like everything moved like to like $4, I doubled my money, right? Again, this is not financial advice and I'm not talking like price talk stuff. What I'm trying to convey is that for all of the things that we are being quote told right now as ways to make money, get the bag, have some financial stability doesn't mean I'm out here balling because my bank looks this way, right? um Financial stability means more of a I have enough money, I have enough access to monetary instrument of money that if I lost my job or had a medical issue for an extended period of time, I can deal with all of those things. And I'm not out here like, oh shoot, like I'm about to like have my car repossessed. Oh shoot, my lights is about to go out in a month. Oh shoot, like I'm about to get evicted from my apartment. Like oh shoot, like how do I deal with that's the financial stability part of where you got 3 months, 6 months, a year of where you don't have to worry about those things. Financial stability does not mean, oh, I'm out here eating Wagyu steaks every day. Oh, I'm out here doing um, international trips, every 2 weeks. Like, that's not financial stability. That's you got money. Well, no, not even. Because if you're living off credit, like, yeah, you could do those things. Like, if you somehow have a $10,000 limit on a card, like, for sure, you could definitely take a trip or two, whether you're going to Canada or whether you're just doing something to run down, Central America or South America. Depending on where you go in Europe, it's relatively cheap too. Like, yeah, you could do that for a bit on a high rolling credit card, but that's not the same as financial stability. Just want to make that distinction and throw that out there for folks. Um, but yeah, like I've done rambled all over the place. Again, like I'm still trying to find my footing on this new thing with the segment. Like I think I might just run with the like this is the Trek with 2Ks show. Here's the thing that's on my mind right now. Here's what caught my attention. Blah 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 blah. As you can tell, like my mind just be all over the place with some of the things I be thinking and like how I cross reference the stuff. And the American passport is like dropping out of the top 5 position. Like that's a recent thing. And I will also say, the the um the passport department, if your stuff is like, if your passport is expired, but I think you're within your year, like you're under a year, you can do it online. And when I tell you that joint is quick, that joint is quick. Because I did mine before I ended up running down south, and I did not expect to get my passport back. Like it was like under 30. Damn. It was like under 30 days. And so I was surprised about that because I thought, all right, I'm gonna be back in like X number of months. It'll be here when I get back. It was there before I left. And the new passport looks actually doper than the old passport. I will also add that. But yeah, like passports, just at least have the ability to go and visit a place. I ain't saying you gotta move nowhere. I'm definitely not trying to tell you what to do with y'all money. Again, I'm not the price talk one on this network. But like, try to get out and see stuff at least once. I mean, Canada is only X number of hours of drive away if you're further up north. If you're further south, I mean, Mexico is right there. And there's definitely different parts to go to besides like Tijuana and stuff, right? Um, oh, and if you get to see this, Aaron, I would definitely like to talk with you about coming down that way. I don't know when, but I'm just throwing it out there, put that in the universe, try to make that actually happen. Um, and yeah, y'all, like those are the two things that are on my head today, along with the other things that like got thrown into my ramble. Um, Safety, security, like this 4 years is going to be interesting, folks. Like if you haven't seen, it's already been some stories that happened this year that's non-crypto related that I'm just like, wow, didn't damn, like out like we weren't even like the full 20 days in. And it was one or two things that I was like, holy shit, like wow, didn't think that was gonna happen. But things are moving. Things are moving. Anywho, it's a Sunday night. Hopefully y'all folks are doing good. And hopefully your weekend was good. Hopefully, if you were in a cold state, you were at least warm. You had a roof over your head that was, still yours, relatively speaking. If you were in a warm state, hopefully you had some good AC, right? Um, and yeah, man. I'll let y'all go now because I know I'm getting tired and I gotta be up in the next couple of hours. Other than that, I am Trek with 2Ks. This is the Gentleman Crypto Network. This is also the new show title called Trek with 2Ks. And yeah, I think the lies might be the thing. That's where I'm gonna go. I think it's gonna be the lies. I appreciate everybody who jumped in. Only Bitcoin, Shango, and all of the lurkers, the stalker folks, because I see what the counter thing looks like. And it's interesting to note that the counter differs between how Restream it shows it and then like what you see on the YouTube side. But yeah, appreciate like MEL, Les Esquire, who else was that? MCD, and I saw somebody else. I don't know if they the boys reeling or trolling, but what up, what up? Thanks for coming through. I appreciate. And for the folks who see this later on, appreciate y'all too. As they say, like, subscribe, and share. Trying to help this out with the algorithm thing. I'm gonna leave it there, folks. It's a late night. I definitely went way longer than I freaking wanted to. Other than that, man, y'all have a good one. From one human to the next. If please be in a safe place, in a safe space, and have a good company, and have a productive or busy day. There you go. All right, y'all. One.